The trigger of Mystery Babylon happening, in my opinion, comes now, right at this moment of Maha. And for by Mystery Babylon, by America's sorceries, were all the nations deceived. The Greek word of sorcery is not witchcraft and wizardry. It has nothing to do with Harry Potter. The root word is pharmakia, pharmacy, medicines, vaccines. For by Mystery Babylon's pharmakia were all the nations deceived, and in her was found the blood of prophets and saints and all those that were slain upon the earth. I mean, the ending of that just says that good people, prophets and saints, are pretty high up on the order, were deceived by pharmakia, as was the rest of the world. And it sounds to me like the rest of the world is going to get ticked right at this trigger moment of when Mystery Babylon is going to see her destructions. All right, welcome back to the Homestead. You guys, I've had this video in my mind for too long now. I've been teasing that I'm going to make a video on Mystery Babylon, and that is this video. And it's going to deal directly with Ezra Eagle, the end game. So if you've seen my first 3 Ezra Eagle videos, I would recommend you go to that for just some of the summation of this 2,500-year-old prophecy that I believe is about America. But today's video is going to be something I really haven't heard much about. And that's kind of like the so what. So if the prophet Ezra was truly telling us a continuation or an expansion of the 4 kingdoms of Daniel, and if we are truly living the very end time, and if that prophecy is about us, that means that the feathers are about American presidents, and that means that things are going to get dicey right now. We just had the last short feather, which was Biden. Go look at my last 2 videos if you want to know more about that. And then now we are at the point where 2 feathers or 2 more leaders are eaten up. But that's usually where we stop. So today we're going to talk about how not only Isaiah, but John the Revelator are also talking, in my opinion, about these same events. And what does that mean in our imminent future? So we're going to go in the greenhouse, and this one is going to get pretty intense. So my last video was an update on our year-round greenhouse. I've got part 2 where I'm going to show you how I build it. And then I've got another really cool video of the homestead. So those are going to be pleasantries. But today we're going to scorch our eyebrows just a little bit. Because in the words of Ezra Taft Benson, who was literally in the cabinet of a presidential administration in America, and he was, Secretary of Agriculture, and he was also a religious leader as the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So here's a gentleman who was not only in the government, but was also, in religion. Bringing those 2 things together, that guy was constantly telling us to be prepared. And he says that if you're not preparing, then you're either not acquainted with the revelations in the Bible, or you simply don't believe them. So the one thing I'm not going to handle lightly is people like, oh, you need to think more positively. I think all that we need to do are spiritual things. Well, I think that spiritual things are the most important. But if you are not temporally prepared, you'll starve. I can't eat my Bible. The Bible tells me to get prepared. I believe the revelations in the Old and New Testament are pretty emphatic that at the end times, when tribulations comes, it's going to get dicey and you're going to need something to eat. So we have been warned. Why? So that we will use our faith and create some works and go build houses and homesteads and food storage to do the best we can, and then ask God to light our efforts, and maybe we can get to the other end of this. Because if you're like me, I want to be here to build the kingdom, baby. And you're not going to build the kingdom if you're starving. So let's go in the greenhouse and get right into this video. I promise you it's going to be intense. Probably nothing you've heard too much about in regards to the Ezra Eagle prophecy. Now, these are my interpretations. I speak, obviously, for no organization. I don't speak for any church. I don't even really speak for my extended family. I mean, just ask all of them at Thanksgiving. They got an earful. Just kidding. All right, we're diving into this right now. Okay, guys, to begin with, the prophet Ezra, after he saw this vision, he didn't like it either. Just like many of you might not like it. I get it. We want to just focus on the positive. But you know what? Why are all these prophecies in Scripture? Why do they even worry about telling us about unpleasant things? Well, I believe that the God of heaven is actually a loving, merciful God. And knowing that the end times are going to get dicey, he's not going to just spring it on us. I believe that you and I had a choice to be here at this particular moment, so we can handle it. So we can actually be positive and handle hard truth. And I think that we're supposed to do both. Well, anyway, the prophet Ezra, after he received this vision, he was disturbed. So Ezra 12, he says, "Lo, I am yet weary in mind and very weak in spirit." He said, there's little strength in me, for great fear was within me when I was afflicted all this night. Verse 8, and he says, he wanted to know about the fearful vision, that thou mayest perfectly comfort my soul. He's reaching out because it was very intense. For thou hast judged me worthy to show me the last times. Now, I think that there's something to that, because he was told specifically to keep the vision. You know, a lot of people's like, oh, it's in the Apocrypha, and so I don't need to worry about it. Well, as if a lot of people who make that argument even worry about the prophecies in the Bible. Just saying. Do people read Isaiah? Isaiah was the great prophet of the latter days, and we're going to read some of him. Do they read Isaiah? Oh, it's too hard to understand. Oh, but don't worry. If the book of Ezra is within the Bible, I would read that, though I won't read Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, John the Revelator, so on and so forth, right? So I think that that's stupid. And the other thing is I personally think, I'm theorizing, that the book of Ezra was kept in the Apocrypha to keep it out of the editorial hand of many people who would otherwise pluck up things of that vision, corrupt it, pervert it, so that in the end times we don't have a very specific warning of, hey, time is running out. The prophecy of Daniel, who is a contemporary with Ezra, is coming about. Here's an elaboration on it, if you will. That's my personal opinion. So if it seems intense, guys, it's because it is. Okay, so he goes into, if you believe the premise that these feathers, long feathers and short feathers, are talking about American presidents. If you watch the other Ezra Eagle 1, 2, and 3 of mine, and I would also always recommend on the outset to go to Michael Rush's channel, because that guy, like me, I'm little brain, he's big brain. And go to the Apocrypha yourself, okay? So I'm just going to give you some commentary on a few things I don't think that we've talked about, because I'm going to thread the needle into Isaiah and into the book of Revelation, and that's where it's going to get wild. But first of all, at the end of Ezra's prophecy, after he gets done telling us about the feathers, he then, if you believe it's America, he is now going to postulate about America. And guys, it's not easy to hear. So my family are a bunch of veterans. My dad served multiple deployments. My grandpa served. My brothers were in the National Guard. 4th of July, Salina Rodeo is nothing except about patriotism and love of God and country, okay? That's where I'm at. But I submit to you that the America as founded, that was a heavenly banner, a constitution that was founded by God's divine light, has been compromised. And that's what the prophet Ezra is saying. Basically, since the days of Hoover, we have allowed our constitutional government to be usurped by secret combinations, by darkness, by the deep state, by the military-industrial complex. I mean, take your synonym, but all is not well. How else can there be presidential assassinations, election coups? How can there be, like we saw the last 4 years, suppression of First Amendment rights of free speech in regards to medicine, and more of that coming up? It's going to get intense, guys. All right. So as he's speaking about this kingdom, if it's America, listen to what he says. It's not easy on the ears for you and I who love this country. And the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that were past and had power over the world with great fearfulness and so he's talking about the eagle head that wakes up that's evil and going to reign with much wicked oppression. For so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. So this this corrupt shadow organization has been working in the background and is now going to be imminently, if the prophecy rings true, working right out into the open when these two eagle feathers, the short feathers that would rain, are eaten up. For the earth thou hast not judged with truth, meaning us, our kingdom, America, we have not judged with truth. For we have afflicted the meek, we have hurt the peaceable. Thou hast loved liars and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit. And thou hast cast down the walls of such that did thee no harm. Okay, if I interpret that, that means that we've been meddling, geopolitically meddling in many areas where we maybe should not have. I mean, you can think of current skirmishes right now where we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars to conflicts that have nothing to do with you and I, the homeless problem, the inflation problem, or anything that matters to us, let alone our national debt. And yet here we are still meddling in others. The world looks at us as the great Satan. We look at ourselves as we're America, the land of liberty and freedom, which we used to be. But something's gone awry. Okay, I forgot to put a few of the words of Isaiah in here, and it's extremely important because it's a third witness, in my opinion, of the same situation with America's corruption and talking about the judgments that will come upon America because we have fallen away from Judeo-Christian morality. There's consequences, guys. So this is in Isaiah chapter 1. Now, I believe that the words of Isaiah have been fulfilled and that they are again going to have a fulfillment in the end time. Once that little key is unlocked and you read America into Isaiah, having a second fulfillment of its prophecy, that we are literally re-fulfilling that prophecy, the words of Isaiah seem to make a lot more sense, especially if you've allowed yourself to learn a little bit of the truth of shadow governments and secret combinations that are in America. And suddenly you realize, really, wow, all is not well. Okay, so if it's speaking of America, listen to these words. Why should you be stricken anymore? Will you revolt more and more? The whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. From the sole of the foot even to the head there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. I mean, as I read that, it's basically saying from the head to the foot that we have allowed corruption to just emphatically take over the greatness of America. And that we have all of these organizations and interests and politicians and money that is corrupting and Hollywood. I mean, you could go on and on and on. It said from the head to the foot, and there's nothing but putrefying sores. And we haven't used Christ's atonement as ointment to fix it. We haven't repented as a nation. We have allowed liberty to be stricken from the greatest, most freest, most prosperous land in earth's existence, where much is given, much is expected. And then this is the consequence, and we'll talk more about this, but your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Your land, strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate as overthrown by strangers. That right there is a covenant curse that comes upon America, according to Isaiah 1, in my opinion. So the prophecy here is saying that we have cast down the walls of others. I'm going to share right now a quote from Ambassador John Bolton, who is being interviewed, and he inadvertently talks about creating coup d'etat, meaning America creating coup d'etat or helping the overthrow of other countries. Now, if you get your mind opened a little bit and just allow yourself to look at other sources of truth, you're going to find a lot of accusations of us meddling in other people's elections, meddling in other people's governments and leaders.
I don't know that I agree with you. To be fair, with all due respect, one doesn't have to be brilliant to attempt a coup.
I disagree with that. As somebody who has helped plan coup d'etat, not here, but other places, it takes a lot of work, and that's not what he did.
When we were talking about what is capable, what you need to do to be able to plan a coup, and you cited your expertise having planned coups.
I'm not going to get into the specifics, but
successful coups?
Well, I wrote about Venezuela in the book, and it turned out not to be successful. Not that we had all that much to do with it, but I saw what it took for an opposition to try and overturn an illegally elected president, and they failed.
I would ask you to go look up, how was Zelensky, who was an actor? Go look at some of the videos of this guy. How was he put in, unelected, into that country? Because the country, the person that he replaced was elected. Zelensky wasn't at first. And whose fingerprints were all over that? America. Okay, so we just got rebuked by the prophet because we were casting down the walls of such that did thee no harm. Therefore is thy wrongful dealings come up to the highest. So God is aware, and thy pride unto the mighty. Again, God. The highest also hath looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. Therefore, here's the curse upon us, guys. Appear no more, thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor all thy vain body, that all the earth may be refreshed and return, being delivered from thy violence. I mean, if you're looking into this, are some of these geopolitical wars, are we the solution or are we the problem? I can't go into all of that. I have a lot of opinion. I will completely nuke this video. By the way, please like and subscribe. If you don't like it and you can't give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down. If you've enjoyed any of my other Homestead videos, just like or comment or put your theories in there, because I need this to get out, because I am not doing myself any favor right now. Okay, so with that, I want to thread it now into Mystery Babylon in the Bible, because Ezra just prophesied that we are a kingdom gone astray. Now, if you read in the Bible under John the Revelator, he predicts an end time Babylonian kingdom. It's called Mystery Babylon. So it's not the Babylon of old, because this Babylon city is a seaborne city. Because in the prophecy, it's talking about its much merchants and all of the trade and the commerce and the people that look from the sea at the greatness of this modern day Babylon, which I believe pretty firmly is New York. Now, some really smart people talk about the way that this prophecy was fulfilled, and I would say partially, as in muy poco, partially fulfilled during 9/11. I think there's a much greater, much more dramatic, much more biblical fulfillment of the Mystery Babylon prophecy found in the book of Revelation 18 and 19. And so we're going to go into that, because that's where we're at right here. So this great kingdom, it says at the first, and John the Revelator says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the case of every unclean and hateful bird. Again, that's hard hearing that could possibly be America. But again, if we already believe or subscribe to the Ezra Eagle prophecy, the prophecy is about a kingdom gone awry, at least since Hoover. And obviously there's corruption before, and obviously the corruption that started at Hoover has metastasized. But we already are really in the premise that there's something wrong. All is not well in Zion. All is not well in America, a great land of freedom, right? Something that's interesting is when we decided to meddle in Iraq, remember our towers come down and Al-Qaeda was the bad guys, and that bin Laden son of a bee, he did this to us. So what did we do? Oh, we're going to go to war with Iraq. We're going to go overthrow the dictatorship of Saddam Hussein. I was little at the time, and I'm like, doesn't make sense. Like, is bin Laden and Saddam, are they like cousins? Secret relationships? I mean, what? Thread the needle. And then we had Colin Powell, and I'm a conservative person. These were my people. I voted for Bush and Colin Powell, and they're saying, but we have to go to war with Iraq, even though this was happened by Al-Qaeda, because because Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. And then Colin Powell goes to the United Nations and he holds up yellow cake.
I regret it now because the information was wrong. Of course I do. But there wasn't a word in that speech, in that presentation, that was not vetted and approved by the intelligence community. But
hey, they've got yellow cake, and this could just unleash havoc, and it's a weapon of mass destruction. And we're all like, oh, God, I'm scared. Go to war with Iraq. And so we overturned the government of Iraq. And you know, in my humble opinion, the only thing worse than the dictatorship of Iraq is what Iraq became after we killed hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and left them with our version of a government, a constitutional government, which floundered and failed. Why? Well, because the people didn't have Judeo-Christian values to uphold the Constitution we were trying to shove down their throat. And things were a mess. Remember? Everyone hated Bush. It was really popular. Not just the Dixie Chicks. Everyone hated Bush. And people like me were like, ticked, hey, leave him alone. And now I'm like, oh, crap. One of the things we did right off the bat was we built the largest embassy that we've ever built over in Iraq. And the crazy thing about that is that large embassy and that large swath of ground is American soil, because your embassy, underneath the embassy, is American soil. Anciently, Iraq was Babylon. So we literally go and we literally plant our flag on ancient Babylon. You can't make this stuff up. Another thing that I think is symbolic and enough, something to just smack you across the head is in Manhattan. So in New York, we actually have a section called Babylon. Hey, that's cool. We know that God hated Babylon and destroyed Babylon, but you know what? We're America and we're going to have our own Babylon right on our mainland soil. So here it is, right in New York. And that's where I believe this prophecy is talking about. And it's talking that it's become a habitation of devils. And then the prophecy goes on and talks about how the merchants of the earth are waxed rich with the delicacies and abundance of America. Now, ever since Bretton Woods, when we became the reserve currency of the world with the dollar, what did we do? We took that power that came with the might of the dollar and for a while, we made everything good. We made so many people rich, and we did do a lot of good peacekeeping. Don't get me wrong. And then, in my opinion, we succumbed to pride. And then, in my opinion, we started meddling and usurping other governments and doing things unrighteous dominion. We started doing things bad. And because of this, John comes forward with a prophecy about this kingdom that was very rich, very powerful. And it says, in 1 hour is the judgment come. And it says, in 1 day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. And we're going to thread this into Ezra Eagle very soon. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication hath lived deliciously with her. And they shall bewail her and lament her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. So all these kings, all these places that have made rich off of the petrodollar and off of America and their alliance with America, they too are going to stand afar off and they're going to see her burning and they are going to be like, what happens next? This is what gets a little bit crazy. The merchants that were made rich by her shall stand off and they shall wail, for in 1 hour these riches are come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company and the ships and the sailors and many who traded by the sea, they stood afar off. That's why we know it's not ancient Babylon. They're standing by the sea and they're watching the smoke of her burning. By the way, during the pandemic, the harbors in New York, New Jersey, they actually were trading more than over in California when those ports were shut down. I mean, we are just to the T, to the jot and the tittle, if you will, fulfilling this prophecy being New York. And it's saying in 1 hour that the city is destroyed. That's why I do not think that this was a prophecy fulfilled with 9/11. I believe that 9/11 was a harbinger, as Jonathan Cahn would articulate, our great buildings that came down right at the place of our founding as a warning to us that judgment is imminent if we don't repent and turn back to God. So ask yourself, have we repented and turned back to God? Now go look at my last Ezra video when I talk about the majority of states have now chosen abortion. Now that they have the chance to choose, Roe v. Wade is out and agency restored to 50 states. And what does the 50 states do? Well, before the election, 29 states had turned to legalize abortion. And now on election night, we had 7 of 10 states with abortion initiatives on the ballot. They said, yep, we're for it too. And a lot of these abortions are not just like limited and rare health of mother, rape, incest. Like we're talking about late term abortions up to 40 weeks. I mean, guys, if you're offended, please come back. We can talk Homestead videos later. But you get into that and you can't see that as an abomination. I can't help you. Still love you, but our definition of sin might be different. But I fully believe that that is fulfilling to a very strict degree God not being happy with a nation who chose abominations and death. That's where we're at. Oh, but as long as there's one in a city, we're not going to be destroyed. No, I don't believe that. I believe in America, when the majority chooses wickedness, then the judgments of God will come. Because with America, much has been given and much is expected. 1776 and all the miracles of our founding. President Washington, who literally was in New York when he consecrated America to God. And he says, hey, inasmuch as we serve thee, may the propitious smiles of heaven come down upon us. He made a covenant literally on the ground that later 2 twin towers would be built. And we broke that covenant, and literally on that ground, those 2 towers came down. I believe that was the harbinger, and the mystery Babylon destruction is a fulfillment of a prophecy that with our immorality comes great judgment. I told you it was going to get a little intense, guys. I told you, okay? Okay, this is where I want to thread it into Ezra Eagle, because how does it get destroyed? I don't know all of this, but it kind of hints in verse 21. So Revelation 18:21, and a mighty angel took up a stone. Sometimes when I read angel, I'm not thinking angel. I don't know how to interpret this because I'm not a prophet. I'm not a bishop. I'm not a pope. I'm a dude with a homestead sitting in a greenhouse with a beanie. Okay, that's all I am. But the angel took a great millstone. So somebody took a millstone, which represents something heavy, and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down and shall be found no more at all. So it sounds like the destruction of that great city, which I think is New York. It has something to do with something being thrown into the sea. Now, I'm listening to a book called Nuclear War. I can't remember the lady's name. It came out like in March of this year. It's a scenario of what could happen because we've allowed ourselves to amass all these nuclear weapons. And boy, we are a bunch of stupid people. I'm talking about the human race. You know, life is so good. We have a beautiful planet. Hey, let's have thousands and thousands of nukes where, you know, like a handful would completely annihilate the planet, but let's have thousands of them. And you know what? Let's make nukes that don't hit the ground. Let's make them thermonuclear. So before they hit the ground, they blow up, have a detonation of nuclear explosion inside of a nuclear explosion, because then it's even way bigger, like 1,000 times bigger. And then you know what? Oh, I know what we can do. We can get another nuke and we can put it up high and it creates an electromagnetic pulse. Oh, yay, more destruction. And then we can get even further destruction because we can detonate a nuclear bomb, throwing it into the sea, detonate it into the sea, and it creates a nuclear tsunami. That's so cool. And then a big wave destroys these seaborne cities like New York. Yay, lots of people die. Oh, and I wonder if that would, in that scenario, if that would threat into a third of the fish in the seas being poisoned and die off. I don't know. Thread the needle in the comments. What do you guys think about that? So we do have nuclear capacities for what I just said. A Poseidon missile is a nuclear detonation in the ocean, creating a nuclear tsunami to destroy cities that are on the seaboard. I saw a great millstone cast into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall we throw down the great city Babylon. Well, that sucks. As a result of however the destruction come, I hear the voice of the harpers and the musicians and the pipers and the trumpeters shall be heard no more. I interpret that as communication out. And no craftsman whatsoever shall craft. and there shall be not any more of any more of thee, and the sound of the millstone shall be heard no more in thee at all. And the sound, I truly believe that's talking about communication. And the light of the candle, we don't use candles, we have electricity. And the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom shall be heard no more. It's like in Isaiah also, he says, I will cut off thy chariots. I mean, we're talking electricity, cars. We're talking about merchandise and economies, everything being changed with the violence that comes. Okay, and now from Isaiah 5. What more could I have done to my vineyard? Again, if this is speaking of America being the vineyard, what more could I have done that I have not done in it? I mean, America has literally been the freest, most prosperous, beautiful land in world existence. And what have we done with it? Our ancestors fought in civil and revolutionary wars, so we're the recipients of all of these blessings, and we couldn't even maintain freedom. Remember during the pandemic, we got really scared. It was really, really scary. And so, hey, all of you guys that are resistant to these experimental vaccines, hey, you guys, you don't get to be on social media, and we're okay with that. No, we're not going to give you a religious exemption. We literally allowed constitutional liberties to be overthrown for the sake of safety. You can't do that in a free society. God does not like that. God likes agency, and we didn't stand up for it. Now I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard as a consequence. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. Now, from my interpretation, when it's talking about the hedge and the walls being removed, it's like the protection. And eaten up, the vineyard will be eaten up. So without protection, those who lead the vineyard, those who watch over the vineyard, they're taken out. Oh, well, that sounds like Ezra eagle prophecy. Because after the last feather Biden, there's 2 who would reign, but they don't get to. Why? Because they're eaten up. The eagle head wakes up and eats them up. It sounds like they're talking about the same thing, in my opinion. That word link really struck me in a profound way when I made my last video. Okay, more of the covenant curse, because this is so fun. In Isaiah 5, verse 6, and I will lay it waste, meaning the vineyard of, in my opinion, America. And I will lay it waste, and it shall not be pruned, nor digged. But there shall come up briars and thorns, and I will command the clouds that they rain no more upon it. Now that's where I want to go into Ezra. So back in chapter 13, because something in John the Revelator's Mystery Babylon starts in the sea with the millstone. Well, something as a result of the eagle head that wakes up with much oppression, much of the destruction in Ezra also comes from the sea. Chapter 13, verse 2, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. I mean, it sounds again like, a wind. Okay, we read wind. Well, that wind could be an east wind. That wind could be a lot more profound. And I beheld, and lo, that man walked strong with the thousands of heaven, where he was turned his countenance to look, and all things trembled that were seen under him. A lot of times I think when it's talking about what happened in the sea, sometimes it's talking about a man. I think it's talking about that event causes everyone to tremble when all the waves are moved. Verse 4, and whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, this violence, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it fleeth the fire. So it starts in the ocean and it's fire. It sounds like something goes into the ocean, creating a violent situation that destroys Babylon in Revelation. To me, I think we are getting 2 perspectives of the same event. Possibly. I don't know. I'm a dude in a greenhouse wearing a beanie. I talk for no one. This is my thoughts. And after, and lo, there was gathered a multitude of men out of number from the 4 winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. So it talks about there's people trying to fight back. But verse 10, I only saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast sparks and tempest. And they were all mixed together. The blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest. Again, as it goes back to tempest, it sounds like a water event to me. And fell with violence upon the multitude which were prepared to fight. So it's like, yeah, we're going to fight. And then we see this wave, that nuclear wave that destroys much. Dang, that's crazy. I don't know what the interpretation is, but I would like to know your thoughts about this. And all of a sudden there was a numeral multitude, and nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and the smell of smoke. And when I saw this, I was afraid. Verse 16, for as I conceive in mine understanding, woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. So it's like, to me, that sounds like fallout. Woe unto them that are left behind. I mean, anybody within the plume, anybody within the radius. I mean, anybody that water touches, whatever, I mean, it's a great issue that's being prophesied by these two prophets. What they exactly mean, I don't know. But let's go back to Mystery Babylon, because I believe here, and this is probably the crutch of this whole video, if you've made it this long. Like and subscribe and share, because no one else is going to help me with this. It's crazy, right? And after the Mystery Babylon destruction happens, we're given the trigger. Why did it happen? Now, I would thread the needle into the latest election by Trump and all the disruptions that Trump has been putting in place, exposing evil, exposing corruption, having Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk go after government excess. Well, that's going to expose all the corruption of all these politicians. And then, Kash Patel, by the way, who's saying he's going to release the list and all these other lists, and he's going to, on day one, expose all of these people, powerful people, bankers and people in high places and celebrities and princes. And he's going to expose the list. And then he was just made head of the FBI. I mean, go watch his exchange with the former head of the FBI. So do you think that they're just going to allow it to happen? Do you think that these people have been doing all this corruption might be part of the secret organization that's part of this whole thing? Yeah. Do you think they're going to fight back? Probably. Well, that sounds biblical. Yeah, it does. It's crazy. So the other thing is that President Trump has allowed a Democrat, Robert Kennedy Jr., who is known for his anti-vaccination status, to be the leader of Health and Human Services, which I would argue out of nowhere, that department is becoming the most influential department in the history of cabinet positions all of a sudden, because he's going to go after it all. He said he's going to do such. Maha, make America healthy again. And so people on both sides of the aisle are really excited about that. And I am too, to be honest with you, because we're going to learn much. Now, the one thing is that many people in many nations are already being exposed to the damage that was done with the experimental vaccine of 4 years ago. So the American media might be covering that great debacle, but other nations already know. And pretty soon, Americans are going to know emphatically, though many of us already do. Now, the rest of this video is not whether you did or you didn't, because it doesn't matter. Someone like me has other people who have been directly affected by that experiment where we were lied to in safety, we were lied to in effectiveness. Many people were forced to. If you were a government employee, specifically in the military, you were forced. If you worked in the medical field, you were coerced. This is 100% of Americans should be on board with the rest of what I'm saying. We should all be collectively ticked, to say it mildly. Okay? The trigger of Mystery Babylon happening, in my opinion, comes now, right at this moment of Maha. And for by Mystery Babylon, by America's sorceries, were all the nations deceived. The Greek word of sorcery is not witchcraft and wizardry. It has nothing to do with Harry Potter. The root word is pharmakia. pharmacy, medicines, vaccines. For by Mystery Babylon's pharmakia were all the nations deceived, and in her was found the blood of prophets and saints and all those that were slain upon the earth. I mean, the ending of that just says that good people, prophets and saints, are pretty high up on the order, were deceived by pharmakia, as was the rest of the world. And it sounds to me like the rest of the world is going to get ticked right at this trigger moment of when Mystery Babylon is going to see her destructions. So I give you these thoughts. I feel kind of strongly about them. They've rested upon me like a big lead turd, and I want to share them with you. I advise you to put that through your own filter and put that through the Spirit, because I speak for no one. I'm just a dude with a homestead. Next videos, we're going to be doing more in the greenhouse and more on the homestead. I would suggest that you can decrease your anxiety of these events by being more prepared. If you're prepared, you shall not fear, and you can do much instead of just roll over and be a victim to the tribulations prophesied in the good book. See you next video.